Howdy, y'all. Jackson here with Ictric Studios, and welcome back to another episode of Outside the Hash. Once again, solo. I think this might just be a recurring theme from here on out. But anyway, it should be a quick episode as we're only down to a few leagues, and two of them are winding down as they head into the postseason with the IFL and TAL. So we'll kick it off with how things went last week in the Great White North in Canada, where the Montreal Alouettes beat the Calgary Stampeders 23-21 in another pretty good game. Game like Cloud Bethel Thompson finally gets that W for the Alouettes in relief. But if you look over towards the next game, you'll see that Cody Fajardo had a pretty good game for Edmonton, and I would still prefer to have had him. But that being said, Tyler Snead went over the century mark in receiving. Dedrick Mills, 78 yards rushing for the Stamp. Oh, I was wrong on that because I picked against my team. Oopsie doopsie. But yeah, I'm happy with the Owls win. Saskatchewan beat Edmonton in a close one, 21-18. That was a way more closer and surprising than one would have expected going into it, with Saskatchewan being the best record in the league, and Edmonton being basically at the bottom. But Fajardo did throw almost 350 yards for the Eskimos. AJ Uledele, 62 yards, led for the Rough Riders, and Samuel Wamilis. I spelled that wrong. Oops. At 113 receiving yards, leading the way for the Rough Riders. There, Toronto got a big win against Winnipeg at 31-17. Arbuckle over 300 yards. Brady Oliveria, he's coming back finally. Continues to be excellent when he has played, 82 yards. And DeMonte Coxey, almost 150 receiving yards. And then Hamilton beat BC, kind of surprisingly, to me at least. Uh, in a close game, 37-33. Bo Levy Mitchell with 400 passing yards. I believe Nathan Rourke was also near 400 passing yards, so it was a very pass-heavy game. James Butler for the Lions with 115 rushing yards, and DeAndre Smith leading the game with 138 receiving yards. So the games this week: Calgary, Ottawa. I would definitely go Calgary on there. Toronto, Winnipeg. You know, I that's kind of a toughie at the moment because they're both kind of I guess they just played, so they're gonna run it back. Toronto won pretty by a good margin, so I'll go Toronto. Hamilton, Edmonton, I'll go Hamilton, and I guess I'll ride with my boys, but I'm still kind of hesitant with McLeod leading the way at the moment. But Bo Levy Mitchell still leading the league in passing with 2,200 yards. James Butler leading the league in rushing with 619. And then Kenny Lawler with just under 700 yards leading the league in receiving at the moment. There's still the crossover in the playoff right now with BC holding that fourth spot over Toronto. But season's still young, so I wouldn't be surprised if that changes as things progress. We'll hop over to Europe and go over their games this last week. There was a really big upset with Frankfurt upsetting the Nordic Storm, ending their perfect season, 35-20. So shout out to my Galaxy there. That was wild. That was my only miss for the pick'em. So yeah, but then we had our typical blowouts pretty much throughout the league. Otherwise, Paris smoking Cologne, probably the worst team in this league. They're basically anthem level bad. Madrid beating the Raiders before 28. Reed's in it with over another 150 over 100 350 yards. Vienna beating the Enthroners, Rhine smoking Berlin, Stuttgart shutting out the Sea Devils, Munich smoking Warclaw, and Prague putting up a 60 bomb on Helvetic. So shout out to the Lions there. Really have turned it around this year. Reed Tennant still leading the league, obviously, in passing. He has Adrian Clark. He threw like 4 interceptions this game. That's why they lost to the Galaxy. So that is, I think Tennant is pretty much blocking down the MVP basically now, even with what he has 2 losses, 3 losses. But yeah, uh, there is no game this week. By the way, they have a league wide bye. Demarcus Irons, 850 yards, leading the league in rushing, and then Aaron Cruikshank still leading the league in receiving. He also just passed the single season receiving touchdowns record. So congratulations to him there. It obviously helps having ex NFL quarterback to throw you the ball. With Nordic's loss, they've actually fallen to the wild card section, which is wild. Vienna's the one now. Munich is 2, Nordic 3, Stuttgart 4, Madrid 5, and Rhine 6. That is a trap game because sure the roster has a bit of turnover turn, but they're still really good. And the players that have been there still. I mean, Tom Sula's not there this year because he's got personal things back in the states, but a lot of championship winning players on that team, even with Jadrian Clark being would be the opposing quarterback. But Chad Jeffries has played well. Um, in replacement. So with that, we'll hop over to the Indoor Football League, which has had their final regular season week. There was, I don't believe, any changes in the standing. So everybody, everything went the way it was supposed to go for the most part. Yeah, but the Bay Area beat Massachusetts. I really only had picked Massachusetts because the Bay Area spot was already locked up, and they went across the country. But I guess it didn't matter when they are the best team in the league. Um, Tua's little brother did play for the Pirates, but obviously wasn't enough. I think he threw like 4 picks, so 3 or 4 picks. Um, Liam Thompson playing instead of, well, in part. I think Dalton Snead had played like half of it. That's why 69 yards led the game because they were like split between 2 quarterbacks. But he also had almost 100 rush yards rushing, and Tyrese Campbell for Bay Area with 61 receiving yards leading the way. James Cahoon still getting lots of garbage time yards, 216 for the Barnstormers, but still absolutely getting smoked, 81-40. Dominic Roberto, 51 yards to lead the way rushing, and Devontae Martin for the Barnstormers leading the way receiving with 85. Tyler Huff once again killed it for the Jacksonville Sharks, 158 yards. Kamari Clark for the Blizzard with almost a century mark rushing. So that's a really good game rushing, but obviously not enough to get the win. And Marcus Rogers for the Sharks led the game in receiving with 54. San Antonio, Northern Arizona, a game that did not matter because they both were well out of the playoff picture. Caleb Lowe for the Wranglers, 130 yards. Logan Collier for the Gunslingers, 48 in rushing, and Kobe Smith for 58 receiving yards for Northern Arizona to lead the game in receiving. Tulsa did get the win over Quad City, so Castronova still has not lost this year. 229 yards passing, 42 on the ground for him. Isaiah Scott, his leading receiver, with 73 yards. Vegas smoked Tucson, 55-18. Jorge Renea for the Sugar Skulls with 91 yards led the game. Vegas, I believe, played both quarterbacks, so that is why 91 led the game. with 55 points being scored. Antonio Wimbush for the uh, for the Nighthawks, 64 yards rushing, and Quentin Randolph led the game with 89 receiving yards for receiving. Nate Davis played a good game for the Strike Force to get the 46-26 win over the Rattlers. Of course, these two teams are going to run it back this week in the postseason, though in Arizona as opposed to San Diego. Shannon Brooks had 72 yards rushing for the Rattlers, and Shane Hook for the Strike Force led the game receiving with 73 yards. So the postseason is, I guess I can quote that. So Jacksonville at Quad City, Tulsa at Green Bay. That is a trap game with Castronova as the Oilers quarterback. Uh, Bay Area playing Vegas, and then Arizona playing San Diego in back-to-back weeks. So that will be interesting. Um, so the final season stats, Cahoon did end up passing Nate Davis there with all his garbage time yards. So he's really good, good stats despite the fact that I think he lost pretty much every single game. The 55 touchdowns, 20 interceptions, but in 13 games, but no wins. You know, very few wins to show for it. Obviously, the 20 pick hurt, but yeah. Davis 2, Miller 3, Sneed 4, and Kenji Behar bumping into the 5 spot to finish off the season. Josh Jones led the league in rushing. There's a lot of quarterbacks. All four of the five leading rushers are quarterbacks. Puka Williams for the Pirates was a lone actual running back. He was finishing 10 yards behind Jones, but also with the only guy in the tens of touchdowns as opposed to the 20 for all the other quarterbacks. Tyler Huff, Max Malor, probably your MVP, and Daquan Neal for the Steamwheelers moved into fifth place this week. In the receiving, there was no changing in the leaderboard. Kyan Williams, obviously, with Cahoon as his quarterback, finished as the league's leading receiver and being the only one to pass the 1,000-yard mark. Quentin Rudolph for the Nighthawks finished 2. Nyan Murray 3. Deshaun Stoudemire 4. Isaiah Hudson 5. So my picks, I'm gonna believe in my team wheelers. I'm gonna believe in Castronova. This should be a really good game because they actually are the two top teams SRS wise. Actually, the whole postseason ranking going into this, all the SRSs are kind of out of whack. So it should be a competitive playoff, honestly. But yeah, I gotta believe in my Steamwheelers though because they are my local team. Uh, I will take Bay Area over Vegas, but that's probably our game of the week. And then Arizona, San Diego. Even with San Diego just winning, you kind of just gotta put your faith that Arizona is gonna continue to be a top level program, and you know Kevin Guy, Sneed, they are the defending champions. So yeah, we'll hop over to the Arena League. They also had their last regular season week. No, well, actually, there was one change. Y'all had Spring moved to 2 in the standings, but unfortunately, my goats uh, did not get the luck they needed in week 9 and are sitting on the outside looking in. Shouldn't have lost those games by 1 early in the year. The Duluth absolutely smoke Ozark. So this was like Polka's worst game in like weeks and weeks. So that still being said, I still will probably have faith in him, even with these two teams running it back next week. The Javante Johnson led the game in passing. Brandon Mackey with over 115 rushing yards, and Dan Williams with 53 receiving yards. They didn't have the stats in yet for St. Joseph Eau Claire, probably because the game didn't matter. But 57-40 for the Goats getting the win. And then Hot Springs getting the big win over Iowa to move up to get home field advantage in the postseason. Jordan Ambrose led the game in passing and rushing, and Fontre Henderson for the Woo led the game in receiving with 71 yards. So these are not 100% accurate because of the one game not having the stats in. But Angelello Angelo Trillo still ended up leading the league in rushing, passing. So his lead will be even bigger when they bump in that final game. Carlos Rogers 2, Jordan Ambrose 3, Javante Johnson 4, and then Tyler Culpa did eke his way into the top 5 with the off player stats not being in yet. So uh, good for him, only playing 3 games and bumping his way all the way in. Brandon Mackey obviously led the league in rushing. Ambrose 2, Rogers 3, Jeff Mack 4, Darius Morrison 5, and over in receiving, Boo Smith ends up being the league leader even without that Week 8 game in yet. Justin Brown, Aaron Dilsworth, Jamal Couch, and Dan Williams. Duluth, Ozarks, Hot Spring, Iowa are our semifinal games. I will believe in Colcomania, even with them just getting kind of smoked last week, but we will see. And then I will go. Uh, this is an interesting one. I I'll, I guess they just won. They're still at home. I'll I'll bite on the expansion team there. So I will go Hot Spring. And then finally, we'll hop over to the final fun league, the Australian Football League. I had a very good week. The only team that let me down was Brisbane, and they let me down big time because they got absolutely smoked. But Hawthorn beat Carlton, Western absolutely smoked Eston, GWS absolutely smoked Sydney, so Sydney went back to not knowing how to play football. Adelaide, almost a 100-point win over Port Adelaide. Fremantle killed West Coast. Gold Coast smoked Brisbane. Ripped my perfect week. Geelong absolutely smoked North Melbourne with a 100-point victory. Jeremy Cameron scored 11 goals and one behind, so he outscored several teams. So that is 67 points. So he outscored Carlton, he outscored Eston, he outscored Sydney, he outscored Port Adelaide, he outscored Brisbane, he obviously outscored North Melbourne. So you could take away all their other points except for just Jeremy Cameron, and they would still won that game. He outscored Richmond. So yeah, absolutely bonkers game. Collingwood beat Richmond. Nick Geikos both leading in goals and disposals. The shutout there, as well as Nashaya Wanganeen Malaria for the St Kilda Saints as they beat the Melbourne Demons. So it's always interesting to see a guy leading goals and disposals because that means he's scoring and distributing. Standings, obviously, I believe the only change was Adelaide moving above Brisbane, and then I think Kilda bumped past Eston. I think was what happened with that. Anyway, yeah, but no changes in the top 8. So GWS Western, I will go GWS. I will go Adelaide Hawthorn. Is a really good one. Because Hawthorn top 8, yeah, they're 13-6. That's a 14-5. This is a really tight season. Like as opposed to last year, where like Sydney was way out ahead until they fell apart at the end of the year. And it was good to see Collingwood get back in the win column. With that, Collingwood, Gold Coast, Smoke Richmond. I can't pick that worst team in the league over the Demons, even with my don't pick the Demons rule. Uh, Sydney Eston. Okay, Sydney might remember how to play football in that game. Carlton Fremantle. Yeah, I'll go Geelong, and then we will St Kilda. So yeah, only change was 2 and 3, just swapping spots there in the postseason. So that is it for the week. Looking forward to the postseason games in the IFL and the TAL. And with that,